So how certain is this?
There's 100% certainty.
Call it 70% and let's move on.
I know.
Meryl Streep doesn't fight, she doesn't feud, and she doesn't need to, because when you've built a legacy out of art rather than attention, your silence becomes your sharpest weapon. On paper, these two actresses couldn't be more different. But when their paths crossed in late 2022, during the early development of a now-defunct Netflix project, what transpired behind closed doors was something few could have predicted. What began as a chance to work together turned into a quiet war, fought in the shadow of studio boardrooms, press briefings, and last-minute script rewrites. And now, with Blake Lively caught in the crossfire of lawsuits and public backlash in 2025, Meryl's long, deliberate silence is beginning to sound like a scream.
This dress was one of the most critical sort of fashion moments of Gossip Girl.
A character-driven psychological drama about a former war journalist confronting the moral weight of stories she never told was quietly approved by Netflix in late 2022 and was already receiving Oscar buzz before it even had a title. The role was extremely challenging and morally complex, and one name had been circling the script from the beginning. The author of Meryl Streep is a renowned playwright, and the director is a new filmmaker who recently made waves at... Why are we pretending a Netflix campaign is prestige just because they slapped Blake Lively on top of it? That script was written for it, Daily tweeted. Can the studio's vision be a dual lead format with Meryl as the seasoned voice and a younger, emotionally unstable protege played by Blake Lively? At least that was the plan until things started. To shift until the marketing deck changed, until Blake's team got more involved, and then, within weeks, the project wasn't Meryl's film anymore.
Well, I'm not the type of actor who can, act without producing.
By early 2023, Blake's team had successfully negotiated a producer title. At first, Meryl didn't object because she had previously worked with co-leads, but according to an anonymous crew member from Netflix's development arm, something felt different this time. The tone of the entire project changed from raw, quiet grief to empowerment and redemption, and the older character, Meryl's, lost most of her depth. Suddenly, the focus was on the young lead's healing arc. The story that had once asked difficult questions about war, silence, and morality had evolved into a sleek, redemption-driven narrative that was tailored for Blake's PR-friendly image. Then, the scheduling conflict occurred, as Netflix called it, but industry insiders whispered something else. Blake did more than simply alter the script, she also deleted the original artwork. One tweet read, "They transformed a street masterclass," into a Blake Lively Instagram caption, which is truly insane.
Winner is...
And the Oscar goes to Meryl Streep, the Iron Lady.
Meryl Streep in Kramer vs. Kramer.
Marvelous Meryl Streep.
I don't normally wear feather numbers with cashmere sweatshirts at whatever time it is.
And you do all of your own style.
Few months later, Netflix's For Your Consideration campaign for the movie Meryl's Name was formally launched. Deleted were the press kits for Blake and the tagline, "One woman's journey to reclaim her story." It was catchy, branded, and had nothing to do with the movie that was first sold to Meryl. According to a former Netflix marketing staffer, the intention was to make Blake a major player in the awards season, but gravity is impossible to create. Another tweet read, "It's crazy that Blake Lively is vying for an Oscar in a role that she created for herself. You know who would have killed it?"
We're all Berliners, we're all Africans, really.
In early 2023, just as Blake's Netflix campaign was gaining momentum, Meryl made another subtle public relations move that raised eyebrows. The brand had started subtly referencing classic Chanel icons and press materials, and weeks earlier, Meryl had worn a vintage Chanel gown at the Berlin Film Festival, igniting rumors of a formal collaboration. However, there was radio silence until Blake appeared front and center as the surprise face of Chanel's Fall 2023 Women in Cinema campaign. Same collection, same brand director, different face. According to industry insiders, Blake's team offered a multi-platform deal that would cross-promote the Netflix movie, the fashion campaign, and her personal wellness brand in exchange for exclusive branding rights. Meryl never responded, but in a rare, unplanned press moment, a reporter asked if she'd been approached by Chanel. Meryl merely stated, "I tell stories, not campaigns." A source said, Blake swooping in on the Chanel deal was bold, but telling. Mariel's story without Meryl, that's on another level.
Hi, Nick. Did anyone notice that Ann Roth also? I am really, truly honored to receive an award.
It wasn't until months later that Meryl subtly brought up the issue in public. She was talking at a Directors Guild panel about the state of storytelling and streaming platforms when she said, "There's a strange shift happening where influence seems to matter more than instinct, where the question is no longer can you disappear into the character, but will the audience still see you?" She didn't name names because she didn't need to, and the video was quickly picked up by several TikTok creators and award blogs, with one headline reading, "Is Meryl Streep taking aim at PR-driven performances?" My Meryl Streep said more, in one sentence than an entire PR team says in 6 months, and we all know exactly who she meant. The award season truth tweet read,
Almost.
Having weird
You
cravings?
almost
Almost
brought
because
me-
I wasn't sure
No,
what you'd be
almost is
craving.
nonsense.
That's
Can I
not
tell
good
you,
enough.
It's amazing how much you can get if you quietly, clearly, and authoritatively.
While everyone was busy analyzing panel quotes and red carpet moments, something much more harmful was subtly making the rounds in industry circles. In a leaked audio clip that was originally recorded during an internal Netflix feedback session, a senior script supervisor is purportedly heard discussing in the Gay's development arc silence guilt, the kind of pain that doesn't want to be seen, but after the rewrites, it's just a spotlight vehicle and has lost its teeth. The voice continues by saying, Streep left because she saw what it was becoming. She saw it before the rest of us. Within 48 hours after the video appeared on a professional film crew private Discord server, it was removed from most platforms, but not before someone had transcribed it. What we already knew was confirmed by a tweet that surfaced in the gray audio. The moment Blake reframed the story around herself, Meryl dipped.
In 1965, I was a 14-year-old freshman in high school in Bernardsville, New Jersey.
Saoirse, get up until now. After avoiding the media, Meryl attended the New York Public Cinema Honors Gala event, which celebrated storytelling among all ages. Meryl was announced as a last-minute honoree Blake, according to reports. She was supposed to attend on behalf of Netflix, but she never did, and people noticed that she took the stage in a simple black gown with no stylist tags or branded sponsorship. Her speech lasted just under 4 minutes, but one line in particular caused a stir. I don't believe in rebranding stories for mass appeal. I believe in telling them truthfully, even if that truth makes us uncomfortable. The audience applauded, some of them stood, and Netflix's representative in the front row reportedly didn't say anything. Cinematic justice is what Snob Reel tweeted about Meryl accepting an award Blake was meant to present.
Gosh, there's so much fire. There's so much fire. No, it's for sure friendly fire.
Following the gala, Blake's group used a third-party outlet to release a press release. Blake. The message was ambiguous, sterile, and obviously edited to say nothing. Fans weren't impressed, and critics were prepared, but Lively is. Still proud of the work she's done both in front of and behind the camera, and she supports the voices of all women in this business. A well-known movie commentary, a 12-minute analysis titled, When You Rewrite a Role for Yourself, The Rise and Fall of PR Acting, was shared by a YouTuber. Critique Culture said that Blake's statement was an AI-generated apology with no ownership, accountability, or point, and the video garnered 2.1 million views in just 4 days.
Just really loved those patchwork jeans that you had.
Magnolia Pearl.
Oh.
Meantime, Meryl had already started working on her next project, a stage production at the Public Theater in New York, based on the Journals of War Correspondence. The play's original concept was raw, underproduced, and intensely emotional, and the reviews were positive. However, it wasn't until one reporter brought up the similarities between the play and her Netflix exit that Meryl responded with a single sentence. Sometimes you have to leave something behind to remind people who built it in the first place. She didn't mention Blake's name, but in one sentence she reclaimed the narrative stage. Whispers NY tweeted, leaving the Netflix version behind and then building the story herself on stage. Meryl doesn't clap back. She redefy Blake's crew was still holding on at the beginning of 2024. Although Blake's representatives were independently shopping her campaign and pushing articles about her creative development and producer-led performance, arcs to fashion and lifestyle sites, Netflix had discreetly pulled away from Gay's potential. One particular headline caused others to raise their eyebrows. Blake Lively on taking the reins. I wanted to narrate this tale in my own unique style. In Vogue, January 2024, but the tactic backfired. The Academy ignored the criticism of the revised final cut of the movie, which lacked nuance and depth. According to Oscar Watchbot, you could tell Blake Lively's campaign was engineered to the decimal, but voters can smell the difference between performance and presence. Gray managed to make it through the awards circuit without receiving any significant nominations.
What time did you leave Monte Carlo yesterday?
I think it was about.
Sorry, did you want any starters?
Aired during the SAG Awards, it was evident that something was amiss. Instead of the poetic, cinematic visual style typically associated with Chanel, there were glossier shots of Blake posing beside vintage typewriters and fake film props. The online commentary was harsh, with one critic on X writing, "This feels like a knockoff Dior campaign with none of the grit." However, Blake still had one card left, her brand deals. Chanel had heavily invested in her face as a modern icon of timeless power meeting modern energy. And a few days later, Chanel's teaser for the upcoming season revealed a new face. A silent reset for Cate Blanchett Blake didn't appear in any of the follow-up advertisements or public declarations. He was just out of style. According to leaked information, Chanel soft-dropped Blake mid-contract. Blanchett is the new face known as a pivot, and Blake and she have been married for, God, don't do this to me, 224 years. By spring 2024, the industry wasn't just discussing Blake's failed campaign. They were reassessing her entire image because the court proceedings involving Justin Baldwin and the rumored contract manipulation fallout tied to his film deal with Blake's production company had finally gone public. When her husband, Ryan Reynolds, gave a mysterious interview during a podcast appearance, things became more heated. When asked about creative interference in Hollywood, he said, "Sometimes silence is complicity, and sometimes staying out of it is the only way to protect yourself." In The Gray, this was not just seen as ambition, but as a pattern. Real Talk Pod stated that Ryan Reynolds' comment was not only about industry politics and that a man is living inside a PR avalanche, but the presenter didn't go further because fans didn't require background.
Who Blake can be married for? Oh God, don't do this to me. 4 years.
Then, in 2024, the press expected a simple, heartfelt moment, a tribute. But instead, Meryl used the stage to address what she called the rewriting of storytelling for shallow reasons. She never mentioned Blake's name, but her voice, cadence, and body language felt more like a conclusion than a general statement. I've watched stories stripped of truth edited into self-promotion repackaged for trending headlines, and I've stayed quiet. But we owe more to the women watching from outside this room. Tell the story, not the brand. The clip went viral, and even actors who had collaborated with Blake began reposting the line without a caption. Actress Ali X said, "My street. Just walked into Cannes and reminded everyone why she built this industry moment."
Back in 1965, I was a 14-year-old freshman in high school in Bernardsville, New Jersey.
Meryl's speech, an odd thing began to happen. Casting calls that Blake used to automatically receive were no longer forwarded, according to an anonymous agency coordinator from one of Hollywood's top talent firms. Directors began selecting different names for prestige projects, studios retreated from new Blake Lively pitches, and streaming platforms shifted their focus to safer, legacy-friendly bets, believing that actresses without scandal, baggage, or press-manufactured arcs were the best candidates. The woman who attempted to rewrite her image into Meryl's shadow was now witnessing that shadow consume her entire brand casting. But Blake's Instagram remained active, and her team continued. To push lifestyle content? Behind the scenes, she was being discreetly removed from conversations that had previously been automatic. League Hub responded, "Want to know who was supposed to lead that A24 script Blake's team pushed for?" They indicated they preferred someone with less recent baggage as they passed in silence.
Me, what was really important for the character was that you understood she was like a walking, talking.
Meanwhile, Meryl had been quietly working on something unexpected, a new psychological drama approved by A24 that would start filming in late 2025. It was a two-woman story with a raw, dialogue-heavy script centered around forgiveness, grief, and hidden truths. What shocked the industry, though, wasn't just the role, but also the person Meryl chose to play alongside her. Florence Pugh, one of Blake's most well-known friends and a rising star in Hollywood who avoids fake friendships and gives honest performances. Meryl and Florence sitting on folding chairs in a grainy black and white Polaroid with the movie's title was all that was included in the announcement post. There is only one line in the caption: "Real work doesn't need permission." No glam, stylist tags, or press rollouts. Florence Updates posted, "Florence and Meryl are doing a two-hander psychological drama while Blake drops another smoothie brand collab." Yes, that is exactly how the industry is becoming. By the middle of 2025, even Blake's devoted fan accounts had become quieter. Less hoopla, fewer tweaks, and fewer reposts. The fervor that used to reverberate on social media whenever she debuted. A new style or shared a statement from the red carpet has subsided, and one straightforward Reddit post was sufficient to sum up the change. You don't remove, you just attempt to fail softly. Old Hollywood, Wall Street. Real stated, it took. No headlines, no lawsuits, no callouts, just one masterclass in quiet removal. Meryl is the blueprint. Meryl Streep sat down for a rare long-form interview with a European arts publication in August 2025. Almost 2 years after she discreetly left in the gray. The article was titled "Staying Power: What Meryl Streep Knows That Hollywood Forgot." The journalist asked her a straightforward question. What happens when a story no longer reflects the truth? Meryl paused for a moment before responding, "Then it's no longer a story. It's branding." Additionally, branding can be lucrative, but not profound. That quote appeared in every awards blog, fan thread, and movie podcast, was framed on the walls of 2 independent theater chains, was printed on tote bags by a feminist film collective in Paris, and was shared on Instagram by Florence Pugh and Jennifer Lawrence without a caption. By that point, the Blake Lively machine had changed its focus from film buzz to lifestyle launches, influencer photo curation, and generalizations about starting. A new chapter, but the chapter Meryl wrote was still being read by independent film. According to Ghost, Blake established a brand, Meryl established a standard. The difference is that one fades while the other endures.
Long and wide.
A private screening of the Street Pugh movie in October at an independent theater in Brooklyn, someone took a blurry picture of Meryl and Florence sitting in the back row without makeup, with Florence next to her wearing a hoodie, and no red carpet or press wall. The image was shared on X with a caption that said, "You can't fake this." The tweet said, "That photo of Meryl and Florence sitting in the back row while their film plays is the kind of storytelling Blake will never touch." If you believe that this is where Blake Lively's collapse ends, you haven't heard what Jennifer Lawrence just said behind closed doors, or how Gal Gadot subtly forewarned us all years ago. Streep didn't have to reveal Blake Lively via tweets, cry in interviews, or battle for a role. She just told the story, and the story did the rest.